this all ready?
That's all ready to go.
Mhm.
I don't think.
Looks like an easy, easy ride.
Yeah. So do you get the whole table for the Shannon Green?
It's time.
Needs to sign.
Well,
Okay.
we'll do that, and then someone will have to hold them on the sander. Okay, we will call the meeting to order. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are going to convene a closed session for Ed Code 35146, consideration of confidential student matter. We'll be back. To open session. No action was taken in closed session. We'll go to 4B, the flag salute. It's our welcome to Ari. Is it Angel? Going to come and do the present? Ari, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Hi, Ari.
You may stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. You may begin.
Trustee Wilderman has a pin for you. I have a cold and I don't want to shake anyone's hand tonight. Thank you. Okay. I'm not sharing. And your mom and dad?
Yeah, my parents.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, presentations 5A, Technology High School highlights. So welcome.
Hopefully it all goes smoothly.
Technology High School.
Technology, high school using the technology.
Uh-oh, password.
It does that sometimes. See, there you go.
So my name's Dawn Mulwiney. I'm the principal of Technology High School here in Rohnert Park, and now literally a stone's throw away from here, which is really exciting. I get to walk over all the time. And I know that you are all familiar with who we are, but I don't know if you're really familiar with our program. So I thought it was really exciting to offer up what our program is, or a component of it, and how it's changed over the last few years. And one of the main things is our name is Technology High School. And it's 20 years old this year. Woohoo! And technology, a lot of times when people see that, they think we're all about computers. Actually, Technology High School was named after the engineering component. So technology refers to our engineering program. And we like to consider ourselves, as of this year, a true STEAM program. I would have described us as a STEM program before, for those of you that aren't familiar. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And there's a lot of folks, including myself, that believe when you add the arts to that, which is the A from STEM to STEAM, that it really enhances the student's experience and their understanding and gives them a much more well-rounded education. And so this is the breakdown of our program. Every student at our school is required to take 4 years of science and 3 years of engineering. And so that's what sets us apart from other programs. Graduation requirements are a little bit different, 2 years of science, 3 years of math. So our science, what we have to offer, and you'll see one named up here twice, which is really exciting. We now have biology and AP Bio, chem, AP Chem, physics, AP Physics, and the fourth one actually is our environmental sustainability class, which you'll notice is also listed under our engineering courses. That is a Project Lead the Way course that is both engineering, and I'm going to tell you some details about it a little bit later, and science. And all the asterisks that you'll see on the presentation on this page are program updates since 2017. The staff and I have worked really closely together to put together the program that reflects what modern expectations are. Greg Weaver actually put in his email when he said, "I'm so sorry I can't come. Can you please tell them how appreciative we are of bringing in Project Lead the Way?" He wanted you to know that. So under technology and only technology, we have robotics, and I put in integrated science. Our integrated science in freshman year is not actually considered a CSU science, but it is an elective. But that class couples with the principles of engineering and covers a great deal of different components. So it has some physics, some chemistry, some biology, some geology, some geography, physical geography, in it. Engineering, we have the Project Lead the Way Principles of Engineering their freshman year, Project Lead the Way Environmental Sustainability their sophomore year, and Project Lead the Way Design and Development their junior year. This year, in addition to the digital photography and digital video, we have added drama, band, and choir. And we really want to thank all the support to bring in the band. That was a huge thing. And they're really quite terrific for being a brand new program. They have kids on there that are really new to band and music, and they have kids on there that have been playing for a long time. Mathematics, Algebra 1, 2, Geometry. What is a little bit different about us in math is the accelerated algebra. We actually like kids coming into freshman year in Algebra 1. Some kids do get to come in at Geometry, but we prefer them come in at Algebra 1. But some kids are a little worried about that because that doesn't get them to Calculus by their senior year. Algebra 2 Accelerated allows kids to go through Algebra 1, Geometry, and then their junior year take Accelerated Algebra, which is also approved through UCCSU, that then can hop them and prepare them for Calculus their senior year. And then we also have stats, AP Stats, AP Calc. And then we have your standard classes that all comprehensive high schools and all high schools need to have to be CSU and UC qualified. And then the support classes, we have Freshman Essentials and PE, which are a little different. Project Lead the Way. This is what designs our, oh, hi Juliet.
Thank you. I know
This is the curriculum that we use for our engineering program. That particular photo is one of their projects that they had this year where they had to repurpose materials that would traditionally be thrown away. How can you repurpose things to really be able to use them? And they were really creative. Juliet and her group made a fantastic raincoat that even had reflective material on it so you could be safe at night. There were high-heeled shoes that you could wear that were there. There were backpacks. It was really a fun project for them. So their freshman year, they start out at Principles of Engineering. This is really your basic class in engineering. In this class, they learn a lot about physics. They apply a lot of the algebraic and geometric concepts in their class. And it's really about building and small machines and mechanisms. This is Mr. Weaver's whole area, and that's kind of why I wanted him here. I go in, I see the magic that the kids are making. You can see them lifting that. They have different force, and they have to figure that out. There's one that they have to make an actual elevator, because some of this, they have coding in it as well. And then that couples with their integrated science 1. Then environmental sustainability, which we were talking about before. Environmental sustainability is one of my favorite classes because it's both engineering and science and incredibly timely. They take what they've learned their freshman year and then they can apply it here. And our students are learning about their world, clean water, availability of clean water, of food, of waste, of all of these things that we are concerned about. And they are studying it and coming up with theories and ideas on how to improve our world in this class. And it's recognized, again, as a science. And then their junior year is engineering, design, and development. This class then takes everything they've learned their freshman year, their sophomore year, and they have to identify their own problem. It's very, very guided throughout the year. But they have to explore a wide variety of problems in society and then come up with a product that will solve that problem. And this is a year-long situation. And by the end of the year, they either have to have a prototype or a model, or it has to be a working product. And it can be a web page, it can be an app, or it can be a physical manifestation of a project. And some of the projects that come out are phenomenal. They use the 3D printers, they use the computers, they use their coding skills. All of this comes together in this one class. And every student at our school takes all 3 of these classes. Project Lead the Way is recognized by AP as a pathway. There's some issues with California and the term pathway, but Project Lead the Way Advanced Placement, which is owned by College Board, recognizes Project Lead the Way and identifies this as pathways. And certain students, if they take the end of the year test, exam, and assessment in the Project Lead the Way courses, and they take 2 of the AP courses and the exam at the end of the year, they will be recognized with certificates at the end of their senior year. And the red arrows are all the classes that we have to offer that will fulfill these. So they would have to take sustainability and principles of engineering, which every student is required to take. And in addition, they have to take one of the AP classes that are arrowed. They have AP Bio, AP Calc, AP Chemistry, Environmental Science, AP, which we're hoping to have next year, AP Physics and Mechanics, and AP Stats. And then they can get a certificate at the end of the year. So the curriculum is that rich and rigorous that it's also recognized by this other organization. Also, we believe in project-based learning, and I know there's folks here with other schools that is also their focus because it is a great way to learn. Project-based learning, when it's done right, it's the absolute most beautiful thing you've ever seen because everybody understands it, it's rich, it's rigorous, it's the kids really have to struggle with it, and in the end, when they get it, they really, truly get it, and they're applying what they're learning. The difference between project-based learning and projects is far apart. Projects are something that you do at the end of learning something. So I've learned about the rivers in Africa, and then I make a model of the rivers in Africa. That's a project. Project-based learning might be talking about water availability on the continent of Africa and how close people may be to this water and what is fresh water, what is clean water, and how do they get it to them. They would learn about the rivers on the continent of Africa, but in addition to that, they're learning all of the other concepts. And they're not going to forget it quite as easily. And that's the difference between the two. And then I wanted to show you some of the beautiful faces of our lovely students because they're just awesome. Some of these were taken at the picnic that you may hear about, and there's homecoming and just silliness and abounding. So, thank you. Any questions?
What's our total enrollment right now?
It's 320 something right now.
Do we know what the max is?
360.
No, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome.
No public comment on it? Okay. So we'll go to communications, student board members. So, Juliet?
Throughout the past month, a great amount has occurred at Tech High. We had the fires, the power outages, the canceled PSAT, etc., and yet we have been able to remain positive and are now back in full swing. Although Rohnert Park was not directly affected, Tech has many students and families who were affected, such as myself, by both the outages and the fires. Thus, on Monday, November 4th, when school was in session again after the fires, Tech had a back-to-school barbecue to raise everyone's spirits after such a stressful week. We had food, drinks, music, games, and more. And it was so amazing to see all of my fellow classmates and peers have so much fun. Even the Tech High staff could not hide the smiles on their faces. Not only did everyone enjoy themselves, but Tech was lucky enough to be visited by our local firefighters and police, as well as the community voice, who all participated in the barbecue. The greatest part of this entire event, at least for the majority of the student body, was an adorable litter of golden retriever puppies who visited in order to help relieve student stress. Overall, it was an amazing event and a great way to transition everyone back into a state of normalcy. We are so grateful for everyone who came and for PTSA for planning this wonderful event. On November 7th and 14th, ASB put on Step Up Day, which is Tech's version of the Shadow Day. There we showed prospective Tech High students and families around our new campus, showcasing all the new exciting things THS has in store. The interested parties had a chance to see a variety of classrooms and learn what the curriculum is like at Tech High. This was our second year using student and teacher panels, which showed prospective students what it is like to be a student at Tech High, as well as the overall environment and sense of community that we have here. The highlight of the tours, though, was the life-size trebuchet that the freshman science and engineering teacher, Mr. Weaver, built with the assistance of several students. This machine was then used to launch pumpkins across our basketball courts, which was quite a sight to see. Our chemistry teacher, Mr. Seam, also put on quite a show, performing various experiments for the 8th graders to watch. Both of these caused a great amount of excitement among both current Tech High students as well as prospective students. Everything went exceptionally well for both step-up days, and I could not be more prouder of my fellow classmates as their hard work and determination made all of this possible. Additionally, today marks a month since ASB put on homecoming. Our Enchanted Garden-themed homecoming was quite a blast. As usual, it was held in the Doubletree in Roanoke Park, and ASB spent many hours before the event preparing decorations and setting up. Once we finished our task at hand, the venue looked absolutely magical. Both staff and students alike were taken aback by all of the wonderful decorations, and all seemed to have enjoyed themselves quite a bit. This has been said to be one of the best homecoming dances that ASB has thrown, and we set a new attendance record, with around 75% of our student body attending. I'm so grateful for ASB's sophomore representatives who planned this wonderful event and made everything happen. On the topic of great successes, this Saturday, our Lady Titans soccer team placed second in the 2019 NTS Championships. We could not be more proud of them, as they are incredible, dedicated athletes who fought hard all the way to the end. If you have not yet seen our Titan athletes in action, feel free to come watch one of our sports games. We are now in the winter season, where we will have both boys and girls basketball, and would really love it if you would come and stop by. Furthermore, ASB is currently working on several different projects. We are holding a canned food drive from December 2nd to December 18th, where students can donate cans to a specific teacher who represents their grade level. All the cans will be going toward the Redwood Empire Food Bank. This year we have set a goal of 2,000 cans, and we look forward to getting out into the community to ask for donations. There are also a few other things in the mix, such as the winter dance, a blood drive, and the development of a student senate, which would assist us in learning more about what happens on our campus, as well as the wants and needs of our student body. Moreover, Tech High's brand new music clan will be hosting a concert on December 7th, and everyone is quite excited, as they are so incredibly talented. We encourage you all to come over to THS and support our wonderful students and staff in these upcoming events. Thank you.
To begin this month's school board report, I would like to acknowledge the recent events that have shaken our community. After arriving back to school due to the Kincaid fire, our ASB worked hard to make everyone feel at home again. Because of Sonoma County's experience with wildfires, we wanted to make all those affected feel once again safe. After missing Halloween, we held a Halloween 2.0 on November 6th, which allowed anyone to dress up and show off their costumes and participate in a costume contest. Along with the Spirit Day, Rancho held their first fall carnival hosted by our hospitality class. The carnival included fun games and prizes, and the hospitality class looks forward to holding it again next year as well. Our fall sports have come to an end of their regular season, and many held their senior nights. We are very proud of all of our athletes, especially our varsity girls tennis team, who went undefeated this season and brought home Rancho's first pennant for that sport. As well as senior nights, they also held their pink games, which help advocate for breast cancer awareness. Speaking of breast cancer awareness, Rancho exceeded our goal of raising $1,000 for Sutter Women's Health. We take a lot of pride in giving back to our community and can't wait to continue going into the end of the fall semester. Speaking of which, this Friday is our second blood drive of the year. Rancho is one of the leading high school donors in Northern California, and we are excited to see how many units we collect this drive. Starting this week is our legendary canned food drive. Every year, our goal is to bring in 10,000 pounds, and we have high hopes for this year. We always advocate for teachers to indulge in friendly competition with other classes, and many in our math department have already declared war on each other. ASB works very hard to collect for our food drive, and all collections go to our local NOAA food bank and St. Vincent de Paul in Santa Rosa. Yesterday, Rancho celebrated Mickey Mouse's birthday by holding Disney Day. Students were able to dress up as their favorite Disney character or wear some of their Disney merch. It was a fun way to celebrate a widely loved character on his birthday. Coming up, ASB is planning their winter rally, our last of the 3 rallies this semester. This rally is highly anticipated by students because of our class's air bands. This year's theme is the Roaring 20s, where we celebrate the second decade in this millennium coming to an end. Our air bands represent each 5 years in this time period. Seniors representing 2000 to 2005, juniors recreating 2005 to 2010, sophomores with 2010 to 2015, and freshmen encapsulating 2015 to 2020. We can't wait to see what our classes come up with. Thank you and happy holidays.
Okay, we'll go to 7B, Roanoke Park Atati Educator Association report. So welcome.
First of all, a shout out to our district officials as they handled the Kincaid fire again in a professional manner. We're waiting for the next disaster to hit to see if they can do it again. The maintenance staff did their best to get everything put together so we could be back in safe schools. And on a personal note, I was very grateful. I was evacuated, and I was grateful to have a key to the bathroom in my school because we were 3 hours in the car without being able to go very far, and it was a long time to wait. But so thank you to have that bathroom available. I'll focus on some of the events at some of our schools, Evergreen, the Positive Behavior Interventions to Support PBIS video received a second place vote in the statewide PBIS competition, and the prize is $400. At John Reed, the students are using one-on-one technology to work on coding, and will have their Code to the Future epic build on December 2nd, which is the day we get back from Thanksgiving break. The students and staff are working hard to implement the positive behavior intervention strategies that they have learned with PBIS. And then they have a walkathon. The walkathon was a great success. Students raised money and had fun walking and dancing. At Marguerite Hahn, the leadership had a food drive for NOAA last week, and the students brought in nearly 3,000 items. Hahn was awarded with a $3,000 grant from the Small Fund City of Roanoke Park grant last week, and they'll be using that money to buy a refillable water station. And then last week, students threw water balloons at Mrs. Hankerson. They were given one balloon for every $50 they raised. The kids thought this was really fun. Mrs. Hankerson was soaked, and I'm not sure she had fun or not. She said it was absolutely freezing. Another awesome thing was that they have going on there is that two Rancho students, Brittany and Ashley Talbot, come 2 days a week after school, and they run a student drama club. They are working with kids to perform an Aladdin production in the spring. The girls are spending nearly 5 hours a week at Hahn with the students, and our kids, she says, love this and look forward to meeting with them each week. Monte Vista, they have a garden work day during the week, and parents and community members are helping to weed and plant the garden. At Richard Crane, this past week, the students participated in 2 activities that focused on kindness. The first was the PTA Family Fun Night, where they painted kindness rocks that families will place throughout the community with the hope of spreading happiness. So it said, be on the lookout for pound RCE kindness. They also participated in Mix It Up Day, which was rescheduled from the October event because of the smoke and the fire impacts. The students were challenged to eat with someone new and play with someone new at lunch to deepen their school culture. Students from TK to 5th were mixed up at lunchtime, and new bonds were formed. And conversation starters and riddles were placed on tables to encourage the conversations to happen. At Thomas Page Academy, they had a wonderful walkathon on November 5th. Many students wore Halloween costumes, and a great time was had by all. And finally, with Tech Middle, they celebrated the end of the first trimester last Friday with a fabulous awards assembly where they handed out 346 awards for honor roll and behavior. 42% of the students made the honor roll. After the awards, they celebrated with an amazing field day that students and staff all enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 7C, receipt of official correspondence. We have a letter from the County Superintendent of Schools to Dr. Wattenpaugh. Do we need to summarize that a little bit?
Sure. It identifies that they did a Williams visitation at 2 of our school sites and identified that there were no issues found and that we've had no Williams complaints.
Okay, good. The second thing is Sonoma County Quarterly Treasurers Report for the quarter ending September 30th, which is posted on our website. So go to 8, the consent agenda.
I want to recuse myself from item 8C.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll go to 9A, Education Services, California Schools Dashboard Update. I left out the distinguished this time, but I said.
Thank you. That's okay. It's all good. Sounds good.
All right.
So thank you guys for letting me talk a little bit about the California dashboard. And I feel like I'm going to disappoint you a little bit because all the data is still embargoed. So December 9th will be the day that they release the information. But I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of what we're working on and what the process has been. And I do have test scores
Can you go back a little bit and
Sure.
explain embargo to
Sure. So what the state will do is they will start giving you information. They want the districts to review the information before they make it public. So I've received the final information today for all the dashboards, and now we have to look and see if there's any errors. And there are a couple errors, so I need to call the state and go, look, you missed something here, so we have to fix that. And then they will release it, they hope December 9th, and then that will become public, and then we can share it with the news folks and all that kind of fun stuff. So I have the information, I'm reviewing it right now, saying there's a couple errors we need to fix, and then I can share that all for everybody after December 9th.
Okay.
But we can see it now on the website, correct?
No.
No, you can see 2018. So
Okay.
so we have the 2017 18 years there, and the 2018-19 data is not there yet. So that's what the 2018-19 data will come after December 9th.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And sure, no problem. So I do just want to talk a little bit kind of about what we've been working on. We've really kind of addressed what is our current reality. And again, if we don't know where we are, we can't plan. We've talked a lot about where we want to go, what are our vision, and again, we heard a lot about that at our governance workshop meeting too. What board goals do we have, and how are we going to get there, and kind of what action steps are we doing? So while we're kind of working on that at the board level, kind of district level through the LCAP, we've got our goals and kind of been focusing on those. Want to share a little bit with our test scores. We have work to do in our test scores. So this is district-wide. Right now, we are 45.62% of our students meeting or exceeding standards in English language arts, and only 30.22 of our students are exceeding or meeting standards for math. So we know this is a significant area of growth that we need to focus upon. And I want to show you kind of just our 4-year data trend. We've basically remained stagnant in kind of our 4 years, unfortunately. From 2016 to 2019 data, we've had 43%, 45, 48, 46 in English language arts of kids that are achieving kind of grade level, if that's what you're thinking of. And in math has been challenging with 30, 31, 31, and 30. Again, this trend, we obviously want this to go higher, and this is something we've been looking at quite a bit this year.
Tell us again what grades they take that.
Absolutely. The grades the students are tested in are 3rd through 8th, and then in 11th grade. So there's no 9th and 10th grade testing for the kids in the English and math. So,
Julie?
yes.
Just want to clarify this. So in math and science, or just in math, we're around 30%?
Just math. The science
Just math?
results aren't out yet. So I'll anticipate those shortly as well. But in math and English are the only ones I really have right now. And I'll show you this website in just a second where you can get a little bit more granular. You can look
Okay.
at individual school sites. You can play around with that. But I'll show you that in 1 second. But just kind of so you can see where we are. And comparing ourselves to the county and the state, we are unfortunately below the county and the state, not significantly, but we are. In the Sonoma County, the standard is 50.14 of students meeting or exceeding standards. And in math, 37.94% are meeting or exceeding standards. Again, countywide, we're not nailing it or knocking it out of the ballpark either. And then the state of California, the results, and again, this is just compared to the district. For English language arts, 50% of 50.87% of students are meeting or exceeding standards. And in mathematics, 39.73% are meeting or exceeding standards.
So if you add up not met and nearly met, which to me is not met,
Correct.
it's huge.
Right. So it's 70%. And this is statewide. So, yes, 60%, excuse me. Well, there's my math. Oh, gosh. Yes. So got to check that again. Yes, quick recovery. 60% statewide, too. So again, and this is just very different, too. And I think one of the things that we've been really focusing on this year is kind of the implementation of the Common Core standards. Before we took these CASP tests, this SBAC testing, we understood how to and again, it's playing a game, how you could move kids up along the schedule. Again, they were called bubble kids, and if you get your bubble kids and you focus on these 5 kids, you can move up significantly in score-wise. And kind of with the new testing, that's not the case. What they are very concerned about is the growth of all students. And then that's one of the big pieces with the dashboard as well. The idea of the dashboard that kind of looked at multiple indicators was to say that one school district or one school is not based on just test scores alone. So they used different types of metrics to make sure that folks could see a bigger picture of how schools are performing. And those, through the California dashboard, they look at attendance rates, how kids are performing, are they coming to school? They look at climate and culture. They look at all the indicators, and I'll kind of talk about those. They look at college and career readiness. They look at graduation rates. We know last year, too, I remember there was a big data error, and our dashboard was showing that we were in red in the graduation rate. Thank goodness that's been corrected now. Yay! For our new data, this is, while I can't share it, that has been corrected. So that's good news, and we'll see obviously some growth there. But there's just a variety of measures. And again, they want to look at English learner progress as well, how our ELs are doing. Again, kind of what we had our first LCAP meeting yesterday, and I thank you for everybody who's still here who came to that yesterday as well. And just to remind folks what the LCAP is and how this ties into our accountability and our dashboard. The LCAP is a 3-year plan, and we basically look at goals for the district and look how we are going to meet those goals. And we spend a lot of time with our business friends really trying to figure out what resources we are going to allocate to meet these goals. And this year, this is the 3rd year of our LCAP. And so next year, the 2021 through 2023 LCAP, there's a new template that's going to be approved by the state board in January. Their big focus this year is to really, there were a number of districts who would do 5, 10 major goals, and they're saying, we don't want that. We want you to have a laser focus. Let's go down to 2, maybe 3 goals. But within those goals, you're going to need to meet your 8 state priorities. So within your 2 goals or 3 goals, how are you going to cover and explain that you are doing these things? How are you looking to make sure that you have credentialed teachers in the classroom, that you have instructional materials that are aligned to the Common Core, that you have safe and clean facilities? Again, kind of the implementation of state academic standards. What kind of professional development are you offering the teachers? Parent engagement, how are you connecting with your community and bringing parents to partner with you? Let's look at student achievement, obviously an area of growth for us. Pupil engagement, let's look at the attendance rates. School climates, do kids want to come to school? And then again, what are we offering our kids? Do we have access to a broad course of study? Are kids happy with the variety of courses that we're offering? And again, how are they doing in those classes? Are we seeing kids who are prepared for college and career? Are kids ready to enter the workforce upon graduation, or are they ready to enter post-secondary education? So these are the areas that we address in the LCAP. And so kind of what we're doing right now with our first meeting with the LCAP, we have our 4 goals for this year, but they are up obviously for renewal and discussion through our LCAP committee. And kind of what our needs assessments are going to be, we're going to find those out. We're addressing the local indicators, which are making sure that we send out family surveys, that we send out teacher surveys, that I talk to students and look at student surveys. And this year is a California Healthy Kids survey year, so we'll get more data with that as well. Again, addressing the state priorities and kind of looking at our data to really make sure that we are improving. And our LCAP goals, we have our 4 goals this year, and basically just to summarize them real quickly so you don't have to read line by line, is are we offering a rigorous curriculum that's aligned to the Common Core standards? Our second goal is, do all students have access to these classes? Do we put up barriers or things to that extent that might hinder kids from reaching their potential? Goal 3 is creating climate and culture. Are students happy to come to school? Do we have clean facilities? Do we have vibrant campuses? And 4 is, how are we working with our families and the community to help support us? So those are kind of our big 4 goals. And if you remember from last year, we qualified for differentiated assistance, which means that we failed to support our homeless population for 2 years in 2 categories. One is in mathematics, and the other is in chronic absenteeism. And so through this, we have worked very closely with the County Office of Education. We have a differentiated assistance team that met about 5 times last year. We are continuing to meet. Unfortunately, our first meeting was canceled due to the fires. We're going to reschedule that meeting here shortly, but we really look at data. And what we did last year was really try and do a root cause analysis of what we think some of the problems are. And we looked at a bunch of data. We called homeless families that have identified. We called families to see how we could be of better support, how we could get kids coming to school, what information we could have. We talked to teachers, and we got a lot of information about where are our two or three areas of focus. And this year, what we've really tried to do is kind of hone in on these two big areas. One is instructional practices, and the other is relationships. And kind of through the instructional practices piece, this was not a blame game saying, oh, teachers, you need to do this, all you need to do this, and then everything's fixed. We really looked holistically at our system and said, in our meetings, are we focused enough about student achievement and learning, or are we dealing with nuts and bolts, and how do we change that practice?
Julie?
Mhm.
Can you back up a little and
Sure.
explain what differentiated assistance teams are?
Yes, so differentiated assistance is part of the accountability measure from the state. So they're saying if a subgroup does not meet, they get stuck in red or orange in the kind of the dashboard for a series of 2 years, and there's different qualifiers. But if you're not supporting a subgroup, and that could be students with disabilities, a particular ethnic group, again, homeless students, foster youth, if there's a strong category that you haven't supported for 2 years, that's going to kick you into a differentiated assistance.
So that's just like a fancy term for special focus.
Correct. And in the past, it was called program improvement. And program improvement was very state-driven. I would say there was folks who would come in and say, you will do this, and we are going to meet these standards. And basically, it was nearly impossible for districts to escape this program improvement status. The idea behind differentiated assistance is that it is a local concern. So you work with your county office of ed, and they don't say, well, we're going to prescribe this and you have to do this. They're going to work with you to look at your system and say, why don't you guys take a look at this and go through this, what they call this continuous learning process, where you look at data, you go through so much information, you have interviews, you do empathy interviews, you look at data. Oh, sorry. And then you really talk about kind of where we're going. And so through this process, these were the two areas that our differentiated assistance team said we are going to put some serious time into this. And I think this kind of tailored one of the comments in the board workshop last week, and it was a very powerful comment, was kind of about how are we building teacher capacity. And I didn't put the slide up because it was so long and it would have been 8,000 things. We have done a ton of professional development. The concern I think I have is that it's been so much and on so many levels and so many different areas that it hasn't been focused. And so we have done, again, and I will put that up in one of our next slides, and we do the California dashboard just so you can see how much work we've had in terms of different areas for building teacher capacity, whether it's technology, whether it's our new student information system, whether it's curriculum focused, whether it's PBIS. We have to really say, okay, you guys, where are we going to put our resources and where are we going to target our attention? And
I
so,
have a question for that too. So would you say that building up a well-trained and experienced workforce, actually putting resources into making that happen, is one of the keys for success?
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so, and then again, and it's funny, as a school district, there are so many areas that we do need to focus upon.
So actually to invest in building up a well-trained, experienced, dedicated workforce, even if that costs more money in the beginning, would you say that long range that produces the most benefits?
Sure, absolutely.
thank
When teachers have capacity built for them in their area, absolutely.
I have a question, Julie.
Sure.
Are you saying that we didn't make any improvement over the 18 school year to 19 dealing with the homeless?
I can't tell you that. I can in
Okay.
December. I can share that information. And so,
It just sounds like you're leading up to
no, actually,
us not having
No.
high
no,
expectations.
no. Oh, no, and I don't mean that at all.
Okay.
No, I don't mean that at all. So I'm sorry if I gave that impression. No, so we did a lot of work, and that is exciting. Then we have to look at other areas.
Well, see,
So-
the thing is, we can do the work, and we can have the meetings, and we can have the discussions, but where's the action plan to see the results? We seem to keep talking about, we're having meetings, and we're having great discussions and doing a lot of work, but we're not seeing the results.
Correct. And so, and again, and that's all, that LCAP, it's all explained in the LCAP, and it's kind of said, lay it out and said, here's what we've done, here's where we are seeing growth, and here's where we're still falling short in these. And a lot of this does take time. The one concern with the homeless group too is it's continuously changing, so.
Well, and I would like to see the board have a study group, and we
Great.
talked about this, but that talks about nothing but what is in the LCAP, what the goals are, what's working, what we've tried.
Perfect.
Because I think we just take this overall broad view, and then we get the dashboard and we're like, okay, this is bad.
Right.
And I get that we compare ourselves to Sonoma and the state, but I would kind of like to stay away from that and see, what are we doing here that's working, what's not working?
Great.
And what do the teachers have to say?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I'd like to know what the teachers' action plan, what they want to see. They're the ones on the front lines, what's working, what's not working.
Absolutely.
And I think also figuring out how we can get the information out in a more user-friendly way.
Correct.
So people understand what the LCAP is, so we can get them involved, they can come to the meetings,
Mhm.
different things like that.
Right, right. My sense of humor is not actually bringing them all in, and I was hoping that it would. So, absolutely. But, yes, and how do we make this palatable? Because the document is unwieldy. It is a 182-page document, and so I understand people not really wanting to dive into it.
Well, and I think one of the things that would be useful is to get the PTAs that are involved at the schools so that they can get the information site by site by site. They know who's involved.
Right.
They might know how to reach out to more parents to get them involved. If we can get these small subgroups and come together as a larger group, I think we should try it.
Sure. And again, I don't want to, there is growth too, and we know that too, and so that's one of the fun things that we get to look at too. So, but what we really did try to do was say, we're gonna work with professional learning communities, and Chris, I couldn't agree more with you. The teachers are the experts, we're using them as the experts, you know your students, what do we need to do to improve? And so we're using those professional learning communities, and we're in various phases of implementation. Some sites are more proficient at using professional learning communities, and some folks, this is kind of new to them. And that's not an easy practice, sharing your data and sharing kind of what you're working on. And sometimes you fall flat. Sometimes you do this amazing lesson and the kids didn't learn, but your colleague right next to you is hitting it out of the ballpark. So that's kind of the conversations you want to have. So talk to me about what you're doing. Can I come watch your class? What are you doing? And we look at kind of common assessments. So this is the big work that we've been doing now. And again, obviously math is going to be our focus, as it is for many across the state. And again, the climate and culture piece, our relationships, all this work that we're doing with PBIS and trying to make sure that we have clear expectations for students, that we aren't suspending kids right and left, that kids are coming to school, they want to be there, they love their teachers love them, they're having a great time. That's what we're focusing on. And then, real quickly, I can't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, they're all blending in. I had the opportunity to go to Sacramento and hear a data discussion with experts from around the state of California and what are they doing that's really working. And one of the things that I heard that the county of the Riverside is working on is they're really mapping their strategic initiatives. And this is one of the things that I think, again, with the board goals and getting set with all that information, really, like you said, honing into the specificity of what it is that we're doing. And so, like right here, we've got all these things going on. Our ultimate goal is to improve outcomes for students. We want students to do better. That's the end all be all. And that goes through our climate and culture, our teacher collaboration, the input from teachers, our curriculum instruction, and again, and Tim, to your point, that is the professional development. How are we training our teachers? How are we retaining our teachers so that they talk and focus about teaching and learning? Family engagement, how are we partnering with our community? Kind of our student supports and interventions. When students aren't learning, do we have a clear, systematic, district-wide plan of how to support those kids so we're not just kind of fumbling? And our coherence, are we district aligned? Does all of our systems support our kids? And so that's going to be a lot of the work that we're doing as well this year, so that, again, I don't know if you've ever heard this term, and a lot of the times the professional development, you have spray and pray, that we're going to throw stuff on the wall and hopefully that something's going to happen. We're not doing that this year, and we've been very strategic with our professional development. And so, Krista, I couldn't agree more with you. I'm ready to get to work, and so are we. And this is kind of, again, I was going to throw in one squirrel and with one of my sense of humor here. So kind of going through and absolutely looking at all our data, and I will keep you posted, and then we will do a workshop again, if we do our LCAP town hall like we did last year, we'll look at our data, we'll get down into the weeds, and we can have those conversations.
Do we do any kind of a student survey
Yes.
for the upper, like 6 through 12?
Yes, so there's two things that you can use. So each site does do a student survey. The California Healthy Kids Survey is the other data that we use, but that's every other year. And then I go to each school site and do student focus groups. So I talk to kids and I ask the set list of questions that they kind of want to ask through our local indicators. You know, I talk to kids and they give me their input.
And do we have anything that compares one sixth grader who's doing well to another who might be struggling, to another who, you know, is there any way to look at a math class that's being taught and see what's working and what's not working? Can we do it at that
Oh, yes.
small of a level, I
Oh,
guess?
yes, and that's the professional learning community too. That's where the teachers come together, whether grade level or department level, and you're bringing your student data. So they're saying, okay, you know, I've got Tommy over here who's, you know, doing great, and then Billy over here is not. And so let's talk about what are some of the strategies that are working with Tommy that aren't working, and you guys, can you give me some ideas? So yeah, it does get down to that specificity of working with individual students.
You know, one of the school sites that I visited in another district, we spoke to their head math person, and they videotape all of their lessons so that students can go back and watch them.
Right. That's great,
Yeah.
and that's phenomenal. Again, not every teacher's comfortable being
Yeah, I know.
videotaped. That's a rough thing for some
Takes a while
folks.
to get used to that.
It does. But again, and there's a ton of resources online too with the Khan Academy and that kind of information online and YouTube and whatnot. But that's a great idea. And that it's a great way to get feedback if teachers are comfortable and you really want to talk about a PLC. Okay, you guys, analyze my teaching. Give me some feedback. What do you want to do? Again, if a teacher is willing to do that, good for them. Not everybody's comfortable doing that. Are there any other questions? And again, like I said, in December, I'll come back, I'll show you our dashboard, get a little of the data corrected, but give you all that information at our next board meeting.
Well, I just have a comment, and
Sure.
I just want to thank you for working so hard on this and in other areas. I've served with you on committees and seen how hard you work and
Thank you,
how dedicated you are, and I really appreciate it.
thank you. I got a good team. Great.
I think it boils down to when we have our goals meeting and focusing on that, you know, getting input from you and our teachers as to, you know, what goals, what things we can focus on. I mean, you've got 8 or 10 things that, and setting a goal of, okay, we're at this level, how do we get to the next level? And going forward, looking forward to setting that.
And last thing, I do want to show you, so if you are interested, just real quickly, there is this, let me get rid of this one, right here. There is a website, and literally all you have to type in is CASP, which is kind of the acronym for the testing. It's CAASPP test results, and you can pull up the website. And on the website, you can, up here in the corner, you can type any school that you want to,
This is a great website. It shows it by school. It shows it
Correct.
overall by district. It's really a pretty impressive site.
Yep, so just grabbing Technology High School as they presented, we can talk about, kind of see schools here. It'll go down to the grade level. Let me get rid of this and let me type Cotati, Rohnert Park. And then if you would like, if you're interested, again, you can look at different subgroups. So if I want to look how our English language students are doing, I will quickly apply filters, and then I can find out 52% of our kids who are designated as English language learners, and let's make sure I got the, oh wait, no, wrong one. I can find kids who are English learners. You can dive into this, apply your filters, and find out how many of our kids are meeting standard or not, and get a lot of information about that.
Can you send us that link,
I absolutely will.
please?
No problem. Okay, well, thank you.
The more you dig deep, the scarier it
That's
gets.
where we have to work on our subgroups. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to 10A, request for allowance of attendance because of emergency conditions.
Okay, so I won't talk too much about what the form is. We're familiar with it. The board has done this for the past couple years, a J13 waiver form. This one that you have before you is for 2 events. On October 9th, PG&E implemented their first public safety power shut-off, now known as PSPS. And so that would be the first one that we're doing for that one particular day. Also part of what we look at is not only to capture a waiver for the attendance for that day, but we also look on the couple days after that, was there any material decreases in attendance related to that? And in this event, there was not a material decrease. So for event 1, we're really only looking at for October 9th, the one day. Event number 2 was on October 27th. That's when the governor declared a state of emergency due to extreme fire conditions. And as a result of that, we were closed from October 28th through November 1st. We're only going to be asking for 4 days because November 1st was a non-student day. So there's no loss of ADA because we didn't have any students.
I do have a question on that, though, because that was supposed to be a teacher workday for training. Is that going to be able to be rescheduled, or is that something that has to be renegotiated? How does that work?
All of the above.
All of the above, okay. Little of all.
So for that event, we have the 4 days. I also wanted to make note on the material decrease due to the trying to get this completed and approved so we can get the state to look at it. We did not have time to, or enough information to determine if there was a material decrease. So we are able to present another J13 waiver if we determine that there is a material decrease related to that week. So we may have another one coming in December. One of the things we do want to note is that CDE is highly recommending that school districts build in emergency days into their school calendars. It's similar to what other districts that have snow conditions do. So this information is going to be moving forward to the calendar committee for consideration. But more than likely next year, we'll have some days built in for events.
Are we going to have students short of hours?
No, the waiver is not only for the ADA, but also for instructional
Okay.
hours. So if it's approved, we will be in good shape. If it's not, then we have to go back and come up with Plan B on how we want to be able to make these up.
And that's as long as we have another day?
So if we add days, what is that? Our school year could end at maybe a week pass, or it slides around when we could end if we have to take days off?
Yeah, there could be a few options there where you build in some days, maybe in lieu of the staff development days, or they could be after. There's a few options that we're going to need to look at.
So one of the options is maybe, I don't know, days of spring break might be shortened as opposed to adding on at the end of the year. I don't know, what's the best way to get attendance? If you go at the end of the year and everyone's already planned to be out of here.
Yeah, I don't think there's a perfect solution on
Right.
this. We do have some other school districts that have done this, so we're going to be looking at.
So Saturdays and Sundays are not an option. Sorry.
But it is
Yeah.
something that we're going to have to
Right.
work into our future calendars.
Okay.
So it's more of a heads up for the board.
Right,
Right.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, I guess not. We need a motion
Yes.
to approve this?
I move that we approve the request for allowance of attendance because of emergency conditions.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Board Services, fiscal update and planning.
Okay, so we're going to start off now with enrollment. We used to have that towards the bottom, but we're going to move that up to the front and talk a little bit about it. So in comparison, this is as of October 31st, 2019, and comparing that to the end of September, we're down 19 students from the prior month. When we look at the data a little bit closer, it's 22 of those students are at high school. We did have some growth in the elementary, which was nice to see. And as we drill down a little bit farther, there are primarily 2 things that were going on. One had to do with 6 students at El Camino, and they were basically there, we're calling them early grads, and they had just a minimal amount of units or time that they needed to make up. This is something that we're looking at, and we're not going to be doing this next year moving
Working with
forward.
the high schools.
So we're gonna work with the high school in order for them to stay for the full semester so we can capture that ADA. So we had the enrollment and then for a very short period of time, so we're only gonna be able to capture a little bit of ADA on those students. 6. And then we had-
Or if we know that that's gonna happen, we need to plan appropriately for the staffing to support that. Because, I mean, if you're gonna have,
With staffing on that, you can't, it's a little different for that school anyways. So that's, I think, part of the reason why you're saying they should be for a full semester, not just a quarter.
but how do you motivate someone that says, okay, I got all my units to stick around versus,
That's what we're gonna work with for
yeah,
these schools.
I understand what you're saying, but I mean, if I've completed all my stuff, I'm gonna go to the JC, or I'm gonna go get a job.
Great, and we can look at dual enrollment.
we're gonna college.
Fantastic. Let's
Yeah.
see, so there's some games that we can kind of play in terms of that. How about
Right.
finishing an internship? What
Right.
can we do again, you don't want kids wasting their time either, because they're 17, 18, they're not gonna play that game. So
Right.
what can we do to make something that's meaningful,
Yeah,
to get
so
that in?
staying for the whole semester doesn't sound reasonable unless there's an internship
There you go.
or something that they can, help us get the ADA or whatever.
Well, I think we also might want to look at, did those students participate in summer school? And could we offer a summer school program for them? So if they only had to make up 5 units or 6 units, so that they could handle that over the summer, so that it wouldn't be necessarily counted and enrolled for the beginning of the school year. So we're going to look at a variety of options and find out exactly for those students, what were the circumstances? And are those common? And then look at what are the most likely solutions we can do.
Right, so that's 6 out of 22, there's 16 more?
There's 16 more. 14 at Rancho, and as we look through the data between September and October, they basically had moved out of the district and either out of Sonoma County, state sometimes, or out of Sonoma County, or at a minimum, at least out of the district. So these weren't people transferring out, they just basically moved out of the area.
I'm gonna
So are we going to get what we were promised, which was a report of where these students are going? Because we were told last December or January that that was going to start, and we've seen nothing. So when I'm sitting there looking at this, it's like, did they move? Did they go to another school? Are they being homeschooled? Are they in a charter school? I mean, because the first thing I saw was 5 freshmen gone, something's up, and then 3 sophomores. So you go through the data and, I mean, we're losing from last year to this year 70 kids. And we're not making them up.
I hate to put Lewis on the spot, but I think you said you're talking to every student that's leaving to trying to find out why? Did you?
Every student who is applying for an inter-district transfer
Okay,
at the high school level
right,
is coming through my office to be interviewed, and then I sign them up.
okay, so these 14 didn't come through you then?
No.
Okay,
Well, if they're not coming back, they have to have their records go with them somewhere. So who's tracking? You said most of them were leaving the state or the county. How do are we making a phone call to those parents and saying, hey, your kid's last day, you're not?
Our office manager was talking to them.
So are we keeping a spreadsheet? I mean, are we keeping a spreadsheet? Is it going into Power Schools? Is it somewhere that we can get with this that says, these 5 kids, one moved to Idaho, one moved to Montana, whatever? So we're still haven't seen anything, I guess, is my point.
So as I mentioned to the board in the weekly update, we had
Thank you,
planned to
Louis.
bring this information to the board at this meeting. But what we found as we began digging into the data is, it wasn't just 59 kids. 59 kids is the net, but we also had enrolled kids. We enrolled more kids. So it's looking at how many kids did actually left the district based on who actually left, but then how many kids actually came in new. So is the number 59, or is it double that in terms of who left? And then looking at what were our new enrollments that came in. So we're trying to provide a better information and data to the board so that it's better data. And what we found as we met with each of the office managers is they all did it a little bit differently
Oh,
in terms of how they logged where kids went. And so we're looking at how do we formalize that so it's very clear and very specific, so everybody's entering the same information in the same way.
yeah, because there's a big difference. There's nothing you can do if they're leaving the county or the
Right.
state. If they're leaving to go to Annalee, I mean, why would you spend advertising dollars if people are leaving this? I mean, it just makes no sense. So we can't make any good decisions if we don't have the reasons why.
Right.
So
So we're bringing that in December.
Just to
Okay,
clarity,
thank
those
you.
14 left the district and didn't go to other schools in the county
Correct.
that we're aware of.
Well, if they left they didn't go on a transfer. They basically moved out of our boundaries.
Okay.
So it wasn't that they just live here and they decided to go to another school. In this case here, they basically moved out of our boundaries.
Just, I mean, you see a little bit of that, you know, onesie, twosie, but 14 seems like a lot. And I don't know if that's a result of, if those 14 were impacted by the fire situation and they had 2 years of rent money for their insurance, and then they no longer had that, and they're having to make a choice, or are their families making a choice to move elsewhere, or whatever. Just, it's like, you know,
I
is it-
think the fires are just the added to everything else.
But there's kind of a time clock of which the insurance, if you did lose your house, you got 2 years of rent money, and people may have, you know, and then that, if that ran out, then they had to make a decision to either continue renting or to relocate.
There were 33 insurance companies who agreed to extend that to those people for a year.
Okay.
But some of the big ones did not. They said they weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
Put it on your insurance policy too.
Yeah, so I think
Well,
that,
hopefully this isn't a trend and this doesn't happen in November too.
I think if we look at the trend realistically and factually, this has been going on for the last 5 years. And I think it's going to continue to happen. We're not going to get 100 or 200 kids. It might be great. I can't live on wishful, hopeful thinking that these kids are going to materialize when the facts show we're losing on average 50 kids a year. I think that's what we have to budget for, and that's what we have to plan for. If we get more kids, great. But I think the reality is what's been looking at us for the last year, at least the last year since I've been on the board, is declining enrollment. And we have to live within, I mean, every 50 kids you lose, that's 2 teachers. It's terrible, but that's what we're facing. And it's not just our district. Pick up the newspaper, and it's every district everywhere in California. People are just making the choice for quality of life to leave the state.
So I think you've been a fly on the wall in some of our conversations. Because as we come back with the first interim, and we are asking the board for a budget study session in December, we are going to be recommending, projecting continued decline. And so looking at not going with flat, but we're going to come up with recommendations on what we anticipate might be realistic. And exactly as you said, that we'll wait to see the whites of kids' eyes before we add staff.
Yeah.
And then relying on the, you know, the state demographic information or demographic information as we see it, you know, and using that to help forecast us too.
I mean, at this point, we're going to look probably just at our experience. If we just look at our experience trend over the last several years, Robert's been looking at some tentative numbers of what that might look like. So we're going to refine that and share that with the board in December.
So that's 14, you had 2 left over.
We just had a couple at Tech High, two at Tech High.
Okay,
So basically, they moved out of the area also.
okay. It's kind of, you see it at the end of the year when kids graduate or that type of thing or families relocate, but it just, this seemed to be an unusual anomaly to happen this early in the year and this many students at one time.
Yeah, I was very surprised myself when we saw the numbers.
Right.
So it took some digging into, and this is part of the big picture that we wanted to share out, but we want to make sure the data is accurate and meaningful.
So we're halfway through November, and obviously we won't get the information until December. Is there any indication of this trend going on, or do we know?
I honestly, I haven't looked at generally we take a look at it at the end of the month or
Okay.
at key times when we start looking at projections and those types of things.
Okay.
So.
So there's no flags that go up during the month, say, oh, I lost 2, I gained 3?
Well, that's the point, is it's always, you're gaining and losing. So
Right.
you may lose a few here, and then you don't want to panic because you may have some more coming in.
Right.
So it's something we need to keep an eye on, but understanding it is going to continue to change throughout the year,
Okay.
both positively and negatively.
Robert, do you want to mention the TK students that will start counting?
Yeah, so absolutely. So what's not included in the enrollment numbers, but we do have it on our spreadsheets, is the ETK. And starting in this January, we'll start to be able to count them, and they'll move over to an active count. So that's another 16 students that we currently have in ETK, which will move into the enrollment.
Right.
The point of that, though, is we will not be able to capture a full year of ADA from them. But at least they're moving in, and we'll be able to start capturing some ADA from them. So that's positive.
I mean, one of the trends too, if you look at any 4 years of total elementary students and forecast out to, because we're 1,800 at the high school level now. And if you look at 4 years of elementary, you're averaging about 400. That forecasts out to 1,600, assuming that you don't pull in another, but we're pulling in, what, 50 maybe from outside for Tech High? So based on that, you'd be 1,450 versus 1,800, that's down 150. So I mean, that trend, the demographics, I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I think it's just there aren't as many students in the state.
Well, I think we're looking at two things. One is what happens to the kids that we projected were going to be here, and then we're also looking at the trend in IDTs in terms of kids that are leaving the district, and
Right.
when are they leaving the district.
Right.
So we're looking at that data as well, which we intend to share with the board, and look at what are the trends in those realms, in terms of, we see kids leave at the end of 5th grade, we see kids leave at the end of 8th grade.
Right.
And so to begin looking at that and again, analyze that a little bit more, so that we can see where those kids are going, and again, provide that information to the board.
That's always been the case since I've been on the board for 20-plus years. You're always parents' choice for whatever reasons, go to a private school or whatever. But right now, it seems to be a lot more crucial since we're kind of in a demographic where the total number of students is going down.
Yep.
So before, it was kind of flooded out, equaled out, it
Yep.
wasn't as big an impact, but.
Can we also look at the cycle of when the market is at the height and when it starts to decline? Because I know that we usually have more of a mass exodus as the market hits the peak, and then as it starts coming back down,
That's right.
people start coming back.
Well, I think the other thing, the wild card here also is the development that we have. We're very fortunate because not a lot of communities have the development that we do. And we do know that we have generated some students from that, and we will continue to generate them. Yes, the houses are expensive. Yes, it may not be at the level that was earlier talked about, but we will be generating students from that. So that's something we always need to balance in the equation too. We have the development coming on, so we have that potential for, actually for enrollment growth down the
My only comment about that is that's what got us into that budget problem last year, was the projection of 85 kids due to the development, and those kids did not materialize.
Yeah, We're not suggesting that we start anticipating growth, but it is a factor when we start looking at what we should be projecting in the future.
So in December, when you bring us all this information, I don't know
Yes.
if it's possible to see how many students we've gained from is it the
Okay.
K section? And then what section is it by the W? And the W? In the K section, I see they're building off of Kaiser apartments.
Yes, affordable apartments,
And then over by Costco, they're building,
not affordable apartments.
not affordable apartments, but it'd be interesting with the increase in housing. I mean, when they built, again, you get different demographics. I think when they built all the apartments over across from is it Food for Less?
Good max.
Or Food Max, I don't think we picked up too many from there. Or they built the apartments over on Golf Course Drive. So,
Those things are running like $3
yeah,
grand a
so,
month.
you know, so just so we can, if it's possible, get numbers on the K and the W.
I know a lot of people that bought in the K section and they moved from homes in Roner Park, so it's not like they're new people to the community either. There
Yeah,
is
but you're
that.
also creating a domino. When you've got one person that leaves a house from Roanoke Park, someone else has another place to move into, so.
And a
Great
lot of those
opportunity.
people are sending their kids to private school, they can
So-
afford it.
So the
it's
realtors
just-
need to put into the clause that for contract, you cannot buy this house unless you have 3 kids. Please. That's not illegal, is it? Yes, it is.
Yes,
I'm
it
going to
is.
jail, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next section we're gonna cover is on the 2019-20 budget. And I wanted to comment a little bit on the combined general fund, the summary budget report that I've been giving. And we know that, you know, we developed this and started using it in order to keep the board better informed on a month-to-month basis where we're
Right.
at with the budget. But one of the things that I'm finding a little bit challenging on this is our cycle, and as we are working through the budget and making adjustments. When we do this report as of a certain day, it's not always gonna reflect a true picture. It's gonna be a work in progress, and sometimes you have adjustments that haven't been made yet, and you may end up painting a picture that, you know, isn't quite accurate. Particularly right now, as we're doing the work behind the first interim, and we did lose a week of work on that, there are things that we don't have in these numbers that you're seeing. So I want to put that out there with a grain of salt. This is a snapshot as of October 31st. When we look at the numbers for November and ultimately for first interim at the next, it's going to look different than this. Okay?
Both debits and credit side?
Both debits and credits.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some one-time dollars that we know, and we still have some adjustments on the certificated salary side. So I'm gonna think a little bit about this and maybe come back with some suggestions if there's something we might wanna do a little bit differently in either the timing of the report or the format that would still meet the board's needs.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to know how much of a deficit we're in.
Right, and, yes, yeah, I agree.
You know, it's a big difference between a few $100,000 deficit and almost, you know, $800,000 deficit.
Yeah, we all want no surprises.
So the 150,000 change, does that have to do with just the revenue not
Yeah.
coming in at the right time, and that's why it went up so much?
No, that's actually a good segue to the next part of this discussion here. So the enrollment decline, the impact on the LCFF, we just did some quick numbers here, and what you're seeing for that $150,000 is really the first-year loss on the decline in enrollment. So remember, we get to use the higher of prior year and current year in the calculation. So if we were looking strictly at the 60 kids that I'm using in this scenario here, the number would be much, much higher than that.
Hmm.
So we get the benefit of that, but the downside to that is in your multi-year projections, which is really the core of everything here, the essential part. That's when you really feel the decline, because then your enrollment goes from, not from the higher of the two, but where you're at now, and what that would look like is if we didn't have that benefit of the higher year. So right now, we're looking at almost a $1.3 million loss of ADA, of funding due to the decline in enrollment, but that's also projecting out decreases in the next 2 years also.
So that 1.3 is for 2021?
That is a 3-year cumulative total,
Yeah.
starting in 1920,
Okay.
with the numbers we know currently, and then projecting that loss with further decline over the next 2 years after that.
So you're being pretty generous here with only a 35 student decline in 2021 and a 20 decline in 21-22. So this could actually get much worse.
It could get better too.
Yeah.
So I think we can come up and with those numbers. Remember, we're also trying to work on a budget that will not be qualified. So we have to be conservative in the sense of our projections, but also at the same time, we have to be aware of what our first interim is going to look like.
Hmm.
We cannot have a qualified budget for first interim. That will be 3 strikes and we're out.
When does the first interim come to us?
Next month.
December.
Yep. So this is just a snapshot. We'll actually update you on the numbers that we will be using at first interim at that time, and present the whole budget with the multi-year projections next month.
Can't wait.
Okay? And then the next item was on the first interim, December 17th board meeting, so let's get there. I also wanted to update the board on the sale of Series D. So October 31st, we completed the successful pricing of the bonds with closing on November 14th. So we got the cash in the bank, $18,410,000. It's into Fund 21. So I think the next step now is having a future facilities committee meeting and start talking about what we have available and how to move forward with the next projects. Okay? Second part of the bond was the refunding piece that was also approved by the board. That was a forward delivery, meaning the transaction is complete but will not be effective until May 7th, 2020. We're happy to report that the total taxpayer savings from that transaction is $286,000. So that did lower that those costs on the bond for taxpayers. So that was a good thing we did. On the facilities update, the board is aware, we also received a notification from Mike that we're pleased to see that we have some recognition on the TAG building. It was being recognized as the North Bay Business Journal Top Projects Award recipient for 2019. That's really exciting. And the event, unfortunately, is on December 17th, which is the preliminary date of our next board meeting. So, but we're happy to get that and get that recognition. And that will also create some advertising in that magazine, which hopefully will benefit the district also, showing off that project.
So I assume Josh will be attending?
So it's from 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
WOC Architects has purchased a table for 10 spots. So we actually have 12 spots. So a number of trustees can attend if they're so interested. And we likely need to start our board meeting at 6:30 or 7 that night.
Okay.
It's going to be like a 3-hour board meeting as it is.
Well,
Yikes.
It'll be a long day. Whatever.
And Mike, it's a total of
10, excuse me, 10.
10. Okay, so that was good news. The other piece we wanted to update the board was on the Lawrence Jones Middle School Band Room project. So we received and signed the memorandum of commencement, which basically means the project's complete, and the only thing now is for the lease payments, because it's a leaseback project. We will be making the first lease payment February 1st, and that'll be for a total of 6-month estimate on the lease payments are about almost a little under $38,000 for 6 months.
And that was already in the bond money from before?
It was.
Okay.
And as the board had requested, we will be doing a full accounting of the project and presenting that. So kind of the details on how much we spent on this section and that section for a total cost of the project. That's all I got for you.
Okay, thank you. So we have 11B, acceptance of gifts and donations to the school and district. So page 93. Somewhere in here. Nothing wrong. So there were, oh, you found it for me. Okay, so we had donations at University Elementary to clear negative lunch balances, so thank you to that donor. Technology Middle, some board games, and special ed speech library. Thank you to that individual. Anonymous at Lawrence Jones for clearing negative lunch balances. So I assume that's for students that are delinquent or don't have the funds for that type of thing. And then teacher grants from the John Jordan Foundation. So we had a number of grants. What are those grants? Do we know?
They're local grants, and the teachers apply for them individually. So
Okay.
they don't go through the office, unfortunately, so I can't give you all the
Okay.
details. But unfortunately, my principal's just left as well, so they could tell you. It's exciting.
And
We're
the,
happy they got the grants.
is
they're
this
excited awards.
our local Jordan Winery, or is this?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so
Yes.
thank you to them for a total of $1,920 in donations this month. So may I have a motion to accept the donations?
So moved.
Okay, I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries 5-0. So we have 12A, board member reports and future agenda items. So I guess I will start first tonight, since we had a board workshop, we call it. And one of the things that we talked about was setting some future board meetings for goals and stuff. So do we want to come up with a date in January for goals? So how best to go about doing that? Are we ready to
Yeah.
do that right now?
Why don't we look at the calendar tomorrow, and I'll send out some potential dates.
Okay. I think it's crucial that we,
Absolutely.
that we do that ASAP.
Yep.
And set those goals and get input from staff and go forward on that. So that was loud and clear amongst all five of us.
Absolutely.
Last week, and I think that was very beneficial. So I look forward to doing that and then setting those goals and working towards achieving those. So that's all I have. So let's go, Joe?
I have nothing.
Okay, Carissa?
A couple of things I want to look at. I know that LJ is doing a process by which kids don't have their cell phones during the day. And I know there are a lot of districts that are basically banning cell phones in K through 12 during the school day, and I want us to take a look at that. We also need to set a budget meeting, if we could do that while we start the budget committee again that we had before. I know there'll be a couple changes on that.
Well, one of the budget meeting was, I believe, did that go out to everybody? That we were going to meet the same night as,
So staff is proposing that we want to have a board study session on the budget, and we will hope to do that before the winter holiday break. And since you have a meeting on December 10th to meet with the search advisors, we are hoping that maybe we could have that before the search advisors came, and depending on the availability of the board, hopefully that could start maybe at 4:30 or 5, but it really depends on what the availability of trustees is.
okay.
Yeah, I'm looking for the budget committee.
Budget committee is
When?
going to come forward at the December meeting in terms of the membership
Okay.
and the meeting calendar.
Okay. And then the other thing I'd like to see brought back, I know we put it off, was accelerating the minimum wage. We had decided to table that for a period of time, and it just didn't come back up. I know there's a lot of other things. So I wanted to look back at accelerating to the $15 an hour before the state requirement. I think it would be helpful to give that. It's not a living wage by any means, but it would be helpful for the people that are at, what, 12?
I think we're
12.50 maybe?
13 or something like that now, yeah, so, or will be going up tonight.
And then, too, when we do that, we have to look at the fiscal impact of that, obviously.
Yeah, you had done that up, but we had decided to table it because there was other stuff going on
Right.
in whenever that was.
I think we voted on it, didn't we?
July.
Did we vote on
We
it?
did, we actually had the dates of each one moving forward, rather than bringing it back each year.
Right.
Because it's gonna go up January 1st. That agenda item approved it all the way, so in January, the rate will be going up, and
Right.
that's already approved moving forward, all the way up to the 15th.
Well, we have to have it approved because it's a state requirement. We don't, the minimum wage is
Yeah,
rising.
I think
We-
what we were approving was the salary schedule, which reflected those salaries.
So is there no way that we can retake a look at this?
So we can relook at it. I'm thinking we're back that we voted on it. We didn't all agree 5-0, but it was, because of the financial impact of it type of thing.
Well, there still will be a financial impact.
Sure,
But I think we're talking something a little different here. We're accelerating it, I think.
yeah, so we can bring that back, I don't have a problem with that, we need to understand the financial impact of that, and then each board member can make up their mind going forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then can we schedule, did I say facilities meeting? I can't remember.
You didn't yet.
Yeah, can we schedule, like, I would like to have one at least every other month.
I'm sorry?
Every other month? If we could get something on the calendar for like the next 6 months, like the 3 meetings at least. Because one of the things that I think we should have been able to dig deeper in was that Jack Schreeder proposal. I would have liked to have been involved in that at our facilities committee meeting prior to seeing it here.
Okay.
Because then I could have asked multitude of questions.
And that was actually a continuation of the
Yeah.
prior agreement.
I saw that.
Moving
Yeah.
up towards hopefully getting in line for some state bond money that
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Tim?
No.
I'm sorry to wake you up there. You were a deep
No, I was
thought.
just pondering everything. I wanted to thank Superintendent Watson Paul for pulling the board together for the governance workshop last Thursday. And I think, just speaking for myself, I was really grateful that we had that opportunity to share our different perspectives. And I had a deeper understanding of the skills and experience and gifts that each board member brings. That I think we're a diverse board, but we have now a deeper commitment to unity of purpose, which is student success. And I think for student success, we need, like I was saying to Julie, we need a well-trained, experienced, dedicated workforce. That means we need to support our teachers and staff to the greatest degree possible, given obvious constraints. But I really appreciate the superintendent's vision in pulling us together and helping us learn to work better as a team so that we're all pulling together for student success. And that has to be, I think Chris has mentioned, or Lev, I'm sorry, my memory's not so great on this, but I've heard one of you or both of you say that that should be informing every single decision we make as a board is, does it contribute to student success? And so I feel for the first time that we really are working together as a team, even though there are differences in votes, and but we accept that and we move forward. And so thank you, Superintendent, for.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Jennifer?
So, as we know, it's been a crazy month. Some without power, some not getting to live in their houses. I got lucky, I got to have a grandbaby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Number 2, right?
Number 2, so, another little girl. I attended one of the planning commission meetings a couple weeks ago, and Tim had brought this up. We had this question about SOMO, and they are proposing putting in 1,700 more homes. So that's going through the planning stages and through council right now. So they're trying to get that going as soon as possible to start next year.
On that site?
On that, well, all the way past. There's a lot of land that goes with it behind.
So when they bought that, I used to work, obviously, Sonoma, and you've got your soccer fields and your baseball fields and stuff. Is there land
All behind it. The
south of
Valley
that?
House. Yes.
And it's already been
Now,
designated?
here's my question, is that
It's in our area.
property, do we get the developer fees for that? Is that within our boundaries?
We will, yes.
We will, okay. I dislike it. It's a polite way of saying it, when we build
And we don't get-
construction close by where the fees go to adjacent when they go to Bellevue. So, okay, good.
So that's
So
kinda
they had already had that approved, Jennifer? Did they talk about the
They're-
boundary issue?
The boundary,
You know, we just voted, the community just voted to
No, we're talking,
continue the boundaries.
we're talking about boundaries of the school districts, not the boundaries for the.
No, I know, but I mean, have they already had it approved that they can build on that land? It's not part of our open spaces?
it's not part of,
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
they've been
different
working
thing.
on this for
Okay.
Long time.
many, many years, yeah. And one of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the development that's going in Katati. So there's 47 houses going in there. 8 of them will be low income. So, you know, anyone who needs, you go to the city of Katati, they'll talk to them about that. During the fires, one of the things that I get a lot of questions about is how come we don't open our gyms and people don't get to come and use that as an evacuation center? So I did have a conversation with the superintendent, and he told me that it's up to the Red Cross, and they get to make that call as to what site they want to use, because they have to get all the volunteers and man everything to keep the doors open. So, one of the other things is the city of Roanoke Park is changing their voting to district voting, and they're having to pay $30,000 without anything, just because of a letter that they received. I don't want to see us have to go through that same thing. I think we need to have a conversation and talk about what it entails.
So if we're proactive and go forward with that before this firm, this legal firm, we would avoid that
Well, it
30,000.
depends on what constitutes being proactive. I mean, is there a way to avoid,
Well, I think
Getting
that's
the
what we
letter.
wanna
I think the
find
only
out
way-
now.
Yeah,
What are,
right.
what are our,
And it'll be interesting to see in the November meeting, they're going to come up with the district boundaries that they're going to use, which are different than what we have.
right?
Well,
yeah.
they're one city, we're 2 cities and an unincorporated area too.
correct.
So,
Well, that and, so even when the city of Santa Rosa and the school district a couple years ago had to go through the same thing, there were a multitude of meetings and getting public input as to how those boundaries were gonna work. And they're not the same boundaries, even for the city of Santa Rosa, they're a little different.
Yeah, because they're looking at drawing 4 districts in Roanoke Park and then having 1 at large. Or they're
No,
gonna,
they
they're
don't
gonna
know on
switch
that.
off now,
no, 5.
They're gonna have 5,
and they're gonna just take turns being the president.
No,
They're-
yeah, right.
yes. They're gonna
Mayor.
keep that in the same way that it is now.
Yeah.
The President of the United States, the mayor.
Mayor.
and then-
We can definitely look into that. We'll need to contact legal counsel to inquire about that. One of the things that I know would happen, whether we got the letter or we decide to do it proactively, we would need to work with a demographer to look at the population of each of the different residential areas as you begin to look at what districts, where the dividing lines might be in the district. Most districts, my experience has been, is they come up with 4 or 5 different versions, get community input, and then the board ultimately makes that decision to be effective, I want to say, not in the coming election, but the following one. So, but we'll get the legal advice to find out, and I'll provide it to the board.
And Superintendent Walton Paul, I think when Santa Rosa did it, they have all the legal advice on their website, so they're, you know, instead of reinventing the wheel, it might be good to contact.
Oh, look, thank you.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Thank you. Tomorrow evening, we have the Superintendent Search Committee who will be here at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. There'll be a translator available for anybody who comes to participate who doesn't speak English. We'll have a Spanish translator here. And they're looking again for input regarding the characteristics of the next superintendent, as well as what the perceived strengths and needs are of the district. So that'll be continuing. The survey is online for the superintendent search, and that closes on November the 22nd. It's online in both English and Spanish, and we have had people responding to the survey. So people are encouraged to do that if they're interested. We have the West Ed study that we're working on for special education. Due to the week we were out of school due to the fire, that was the week they were going to be doing their visitation here. So due to their schedule, they're not able to come until January. So they'll be here in January, so it's going to push out that final report to a little bit later in the school year. We'd hoped it would be in January, but it's going to be a little bit after that, since that's when they'll be here in the district. We do hope to calendar that budget study session on December the 10th. So offline, I will check with each of the trustees to find out what time will work for you. We did push out the showcase dates to the board in the last weekly update. The first showcase is going to be at University Elementary on Thursday, December 12th, and that's the only one we have in December. The rest follow in January. We had looked at doing the dedication of the music room at Lawrence Jones at the showcase, and so that will be on January 30th. So we'll be inviting people out to that and be planning for that. We also need to plan for the dedication of Technology High School. Since they've already had their showcase, we'll be working with Dawn to find a date that works for everybody. In addition, so yesterday, Monica Fong and I were invited to a meeting at the county office to talk about the census for 2020. John Reed attendance area is identified as an underreported area from the 2010 census. And so they've identified that John Reed can hire a census consultant to coordinate activities at that school site for when the census is going out. It's primarily going to be done online. And so they will help set up a kiosk at that site for families to come in and register. And it really is looking at how many adults live in the house, how many adults and kids. They're not collecting name information. They're not collecting any information that is shared with any other government organization. So they hope to do a better job of getting that accurate data, because it actually then provides funding for the county and funding for the district. So we want to make sure that we're not undercounted. While John Reed is the target, we're going to be looking at the whole district in terms of how do we get greater participation. The state is spending about $1.7 million to, no, it's actually more than that, I can't remember what it was, but spending a significant amount of money so that California gets the dollars that they should be getting from the federal government. And just in Sonoma County alone, they believed it would be about $390 million more a year. $39 million a year for 10 years, $390 million over 10 years for the federal programs like Title I, Title II, Title III. And so we're going to really be doing our participation in helping get people out to participate. So everybody will be receiving a letter in the mail, but really it's then with a log on to go in and do it online. And if you don't do it by that, at the end of May, I think you'll get a letter with a paper form to complete it. So we're going to participate with that. And lastly, we have our Thanksgiving holiday begins next week. We'll be out of school between Monday and Friday and come back on Monday, December the 2nd.
Jim, you had a question?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be a great opportunity to partner with the Latino Alliance?
It could be, sure. Absolutely. At this point, it's the school site, so we'll talk with Monica about getting their assistance. And that's it.
All right. With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.